narrow escape from the hustle and the bustle tonight. And I don't know where you wanna go, but I'm willing to take you there. Girl, just be who you wanna be. Once you're with me, baby, have no fear. So much beautiful things to see. Girl, don't waste your life. And there is only one love to give. Girl, we now waste no time. And I don't know if I beach or if I riverside. Hey, but I wanna take you somewhere tonight. And I don't know if I beach or if I riverside. Hey. And I don't know if I hill or valley, but I beg you come chill with Connie tonight. Girl, baby, oh baby. Talk about love, talk about trust, talk about forever, baby. Talk about us. I give you my word. To my guts, believe me when I say it, baby. It's just begun. You don't understand, oh girl, the full intent of my plan. But baby, I wanna be your.
Yes. I do hope that people actually join us on that particular endeavor, because the role of the media in any organization is actually
in
very
country,
critical.
Exactly.
I think, and it is even more critical now as we look at what is happening in the realm of geopolitics, right? And being able to understand and break down and get people to comprehensively learn what everything means for them. Because I think the misconception actually comes when people look at what is happening internationally and then they try to transition that locally. But then realistically, when we talk about what's happening internationally, it's not the same on the ground locally, right? So they hold media and media workers to the highest standard of what they're seeing on the global stage as against what is the realistic environment here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Do you believe at this point that people actually understand and respect what is actually happening for us as media workers? When I say us, whether or not it be you as a journalist, me as the editor, the DJs, the program host, and so forth, because they're only seeing or understanding what they have seen specifically when it comes to their perception of what media is.
So, do they understand the process? No. No. But I think that's what kind of makes the profession a little magical, you know? People think, you know, I did an interview recently with Andre, and I said to him, you know, people always, you know, reach out to me and be like, are you the girl who reads news on Freedom FM? And I'm like, no. I wish it were that easy. The reality of the situation is many media houses in St. Kitts, we're strapped for cash. We are strapped for funding. We don't have the sophisticated infrastructure or equipment as we see at other media houses, maybe even in the region and internationally. So in many cases, we have one person doing the job of 3 and 4 individuals, right? So no, people don't understand that. People don't understand that when you are hired to do a particular job, let's say Jermaine is hired to do a talk show, to be a talk show host, right? He is hired to host that show. He is not hired to be at press conferences. He is not hired to do investigative journalism. he's hired to do that job. And in many cases, he's paid not very well, but he's paid to do that job. And people don't understand. People are always, you always hear the criticism, oh, but you should be doing so much more. And I want to see you at this, and I want to see you at that. And you have to really tell them, listen, no, this is not, it is not as easy as that. This is not how we operate within our job. And at the end of the day, I saw somebody post one time saying, media, while it looks like it's a 24-hour job, it is a job, right? It's not our life. It is a job. So, just as you go to work from 8 to 4, many of us have working hours, Many of us have a time frame to be at work. So, to expect us to just do everything 24 hours a day is crazy. It is really mad. But people don't understand that process. And that is why conversations such as these are important, because it's necessary for us to keep that message consistent, for people to understand, listen, this is what we are hired to do, and this is what we do. And we do that at the best of our ability. Can we improve? Yes. Is there room for improvement? Absolutely. But many times we're just doing the best with what we have.
Yes, yes. And I like what you say there, because it is a job, and people have an expectation that you're going to be working around the clock. While that is true, right, the Caribbean environment does not oftentimes be friendly to us, for want of a better word, right, in the sense that you're a journalist, you're a parent, you have your life, you might be studying, and there's this expectation that you have to somehow balance all of that. Yes, this is what you do. It's a career and all of that, but at the same time, you still have, in order to keep your sanity, you have to be able to strike that balance, right?
And you absolutely have to have boundary. You have to have boundaries, right? So it is unfair, and I mean that might be a strong word, but it is what it is. It is unfair to expect anybody to work 24 hours a day. So I wake up at mornings, and sometimes I get messages after 5 in the morning asking me, Jamie, it's true this happened last night? Well, I don't know. I'm just getting up, just like you are, right? I don't sleep with my phone. I don't go out in the middle of the night to do these things. And yes, while you may see people who, operate differently, because many times, people on social media, the bloggers, and, they are there. You hear the comparisons, and you hear, y'all not worth anything because so and so already posted the story. Yeah, so and so is doing this as a hobby, right? And they operate differently. They don't operate the same way that we do.
And the reality is, people don't understand what goes into it. And I know a lot of management and managers and everybody, they would say, yeah, your expectations are that you have to do a lot of this. Something happened, you have to push it out. I mean, when the US invaded Venezuela earlier this year, no, the weird thing about that was, I was actually sleeping at the time, and I got an email or something, and I just, I woke up and I turned and said, hey, let me check my phone, see what's happening, see who messaged me, because I went to bed early that night. And when I checked, Al Jazeera is reporting fighting and sounds of bombs going off in the streets.
Yes.
Now, when you wake up, that piques your interest. So while you might be a little bit groggy and so forth, bam, you have to look at that story, and then it developed from 3 something in the morning, and it became a 24-hour news story in the news cycle.
No, many of us are passionate. And I just spoke about having boundaries, but many of us are passionate about what we do. So for me, I remember, you remember when that guy, I think his name was Prigozhin or something like that, he tried to invade Russia,
Yes.
right? And I went to the music, it was around the music festival. And I went to the music festival, I got home and I put on BBC because, you know, it's, yeah, it's just how we operate, right? And I saw that and I remember someone saying, but Jamie, but how? And I'm like, this is how I operate with the Venezuela issue. I woke up very early and I saw that news as well. And then I went and did a deep dive into what was happening. And not just what was happening, but I started to think about, the ramifications for us. Because, that's basically in our backyard. We're trapped between both countries. So I started to do that. No, I don't think that should be expected of us. And while we may do it, because you mentioned media managers expecting, a lot from employees, I have now been placed in a situation where I am a media manager, but I recognize that I have to be cognizant of the fact that we're dealing with human beings who have lives. Right, right, and who have children, and who are dealing with so much other things other than just work. You can't expect people to work hours a day. So when the staff has worked and they go home, I'm very mindful of, not reaching out to people too late, not calling people phone too early. Right? Because it's just not fair, right? Yes, you want to be on top and you want your stories to go first and you want people to be able to verify information, but you still have to be cognizant of the fact, listen, these are human beings that they're dealing with, especially when you against a backdrop of you're understaffed in most cases. So I follow media professionals. I follow especially one lady in Miami, and she her job started at 3 o'clock in the morning and finished at 11 o'clock the morning, right? We don't have staff to come in at 3 o'clock in the morning just in case a story happens and to prepare for, let's say, a 5 o'clock newscast. We don't have that, right? She's now on a different shift where she goes in at 3 o'clock at afternoons and finishes 11 o'clock in the night. We don't have that kind of staff. Should we? Absolutely. Do we have money for it? No, right? So the point that I'm making is it is unfair to expect people to work, 24 hours a day. It doesn't happen anywhere in the world.
And that is a valid point that you made there in terms of the timings. Um, you touched on a couple of critical points, and I think the one of the important ones actually is that of resources, one, and two, timing. Um, Resources remain the critical aspect of it, and I think it also goes back to a broad aspect of technology and the climate that we're in. And when I mean the climate, the business environment that we operate. Um, and you also mentioned that newsrooms are short staffed. Being honest, all newsrooms, including state-owned ZIZ, is also understaffed for what we or what news operations should be, right? Um, in all of those challenges, right, you still make it happen. Even here at WINNFM, it is still being done. Your key point, your key area of focus is actually being able to um, get the news out to the people on time. Because I think yours is 12:30.
Yes.
You have WinFM is 12 o'clock. ZIZ and the others operate your mandate basically is to get it done on time and be able to address. Jamie, I'll stick a pin there for now. The callers want to interact with you as we continue this discussion, right? Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Caller? Okay, we lost that caller there, but the phone lines are lighting up, I must say, right, as we continue with the discussion. Yes. We So the mandate basically is to ensure that you have a newscast that is that is out there, and you're basically adhering to your business model, which is you have to get a structured newscast out. The newscast has to be of a high quality, and the newscast also must be on time.
And you must have, and because again, I'm putting on the manager hat, but you must have sponsors, right?
Okay, just take a pin there. Caller, good morning.
Structured newscast out.
Caller, please turn off your radio. Caller?
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
I am blessed, highly favored, and giving thanks. And good morning to your beautiful guest as well.
Good morning, sir.
You're most correct, Jamie. I believe journalists are an endangered species. I don't think there is enough in any media house to cover the stories that people expect that they need to. And you're getting right. I think the public expects journalists to be operating 24/7. And I'm not so certain that they pay attention to what you said, that, hey, one, they have a family, two, they have their personal life, and three, they need downtime to rest and recuperate and all those nice replenish themselves, etc., etc. And when you're listening to the radio or TV or whatever, and you hear a news package for 15 minutes, I don't believe that persons understand how much research, how much time, how much hours you spend preparing just that 15. I use 15 minutes as an example. You spend preparing that 15 minutes. They think maybe you just get up and boom, but no, you have to do research, you have to put it together, you record, you have to edit how many times, etc., etc. So I think, I'm not certain that journalists are getting the levels of respect that they deserve, that they should be getting. And especially when you go to, say, press conferences and you ask certain questions, then people get mad at you for asking these questions. And not only that, when comments are made, perhaps of an insulting nature, they forget that at the end of the day, journalists are people as well. And not only that, in my view, the media is a very, 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 very powerful entity. I normally say there are at least 5 persons, 5, 6, 7 persons, entities you should really not mess with. The Calypsonian, the MC, those who feed you, the medical services, your cooks, those who look after your health, doctors and nurses, and the media. Because the media could pin a story and you want to start to twist it and turn it, and what is not the case, people will interpret it as the case. So I'm really appealing to the public to offer more support and more respect for journalists in whatever field, in whatever station. Because sometimes, we've heard stories, we know stories where journalists have been kidnapped and in some cases killed in some countries. We are very unfortunate here in St. Kitts. We are in the Caribbean. We are not at that level. But that's the reality out there. The war in Ukraine, journalists are there live on the ground covering that. In Iraq, in Iran,
in Palestine.
And they're putting their life at stake. So I continue to listen, but congrats on the wonderful program you guys are doing.
All right, thanks,
you.
caller. The caller did touch on a critical point. I mean, he mentioned the professions there that I personally believe you should not be messing with, especially the person that's cooking for you.
And your doctor.
Right? But and it's always been a debate that keeps coming up all the time when we talk about media, in that people continuously dictate what should be done and how it should be done, and oftentimes it is not necessarily people who are sitting, the people who are editing, and the people who are the ones playing an integral part in ensuring that whatever is done is being done to the to the best of the organization's ability. But I'll take a break in a sec, right? Because like I said, we've been having some technical challenges. But I want to take this caller though. Caller, good morning.
Good morning, again. And good morning, Jamie.
Good morning.
Yes, this is Jam down here. And this is my own input when it comes to journalism in St. Kitts. We cannot put journalism in St. Kitts to journalism in the world out there, in the bigger countries. Juni Labour, them, Galwin Cairns, them. They didn't have numbers, but they used to get the job done. You all is running from the issues in the country, and you all got to come better than that. We know the job is hard. For instance, Jamie American, they have a public account committee in the country, and none are challenging it. I don't know what happening. I afraid. I think these things we look for the journalists. You hear well, Master? The Californian got the important part to play, and he demonstrated that over the years during the career from a little boy. And we ain't getting it from the journalists them at all. It look like I afraid the politicians them. It's all you to make we satisfy and get accountability in the country, and we're getting it from higher. That's why people don't want to give I the respect. I not trying to respect higher, but when I hear certain shows that I am baby caking these politicians, I am going bad with higher. Go to the elder ones them, Julie Labour, they got a lot to teach higher. Parliament Jester, Errol Man and wife, they have a lot to teach higher. They've been there before higher. But you see, think it, everybody feel when they get certain jobs, they beg. Nobody could say none to them. Have a good morning, a good show.
All right, thanks, caller. It's good to have criticisms coming in sometimes, But before I take the break, though, right, Jamie, because finally got our systems,
Okay.
No, I'll take a break and then I'll ask you this particular question. There's a reason why I'm going to ask you this particular question, right? Because when I'm here, I like to peel the veil back to give the public an understanding of what actually goes on, right? We'll take a quick break and we'll come right back with more Inside the News.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
More than 42 million cars from 19 different car companies are being recalled for faulty airbag inflators. Repairs are fast, easy, and free. The problem isn't with the airbag, it's with the airbag inflator. Because the inflator can rupture, shooting shrapnel through the airbag, which can cause serious injury or even death. Don't risk it, fix it.
Please contact TDC Automotive Division to find out if your Toyota vehicle is affected by the Takata airbag recall. Visit or call us at 465-2511 in St. Kitts or 469-5430 in Nevis.
Come, build with us at Hostels Building and Nevis Centers. We don't just sell materials, we help you build your dreams. Whether it's a new home, a renovation, or a DIY project, we're here to make it happen. That's why we say, build with us. From foundation to finish, come to our stores where we have the best in building materials, hardware, tools, paints, expert advice, and more. Whatever you need, you can count on us. So if you're ready to get started, build with us. With Hostels Building and Nevis Centers, you're not not just building a structure, you're building a future. Let us help you create something amazing. Dream with us, plan with us, grow with us, build with us. Come build with us at Hosford's Building and Nevis Centers today. Build with us at Hosford's.
And we are back here on Inside the News, here on WINNFM 98.9. I'm German Abel sitting in, and today we're talking media and the media landscape here in St. Kitts and Nevis. We are joined by the Media Association of St. Kitts and Nevis. We have with us Jamiel McPhee, and we will shortly be joined by Mr. Andre Huey. So, Jamie,
Yes.
I know the punching bag, the punching entity in St. Kitts and Nevis has been and continues to be the media, right? Because the expectations of the media in St. Kitts and Nevis, the few people who are in the profession, the expectations are 1001. Not 99, but 1001, which means even though you're giving the 1000, they expect the 1000, they still expect something more.
And it would always be like that. And it will always be like that because at the end of the day, we're dealing with human beings, you know. And I remember when I first started and I heard the criticisms, sometimes I wanted to cry. I'm going to be honest, like, it would tear me apart because in my mind, I'm doing the absolute best that I can. And, you know, people still want to tear you apart. Now, I openly admitted during the first segment of the program that there is work to be done. That is why the Media Association is always encouraging training opportunities, right? I have worked in media for 15 years. I know you have probably worked for a longer time. And over those 15 years, and before I said that, I never expected to work in media. I was a teacher. I trained to be a teacher, right? Over those 15 years, I ensured that every single training opportunity that came up in St. Kitts and Nevis, I was able to participate. Everyone. Every single training opportunity that happened virtually, because after COVID and during COVID, we started to have a lot of opportunities that were hybrid in nature. So in person and virtually. And I signed up for all because I wanted to ensure that I operated from a place where I had the knowledge. Now, do I have work to do? Yes, all of us. What is interesting to me, though, is that many times when people criticize what we are doing, these are the same people who cannot do what we're doing. So I don't even know if those criticisms are completely valid, right? We are doing the best that we can do. No, the caller spoke about the Public Accounts Committee. I've spoken about that committee. I've hosted shows about that committee. No, I don't know. Other than advocating for certain things, I don't know what else we can do, right? We can't formulate the committee ourselves, right? I am not. There is always the conversation about, you know, people being intimidated. I know German is not intimidated. We have Andre here. You're intimidated?
By what?
By officials, government officials. Yeah. We're not intimidated, right? The thing is, people want you to ask what they want you to ask.
And ask it how you want it to ask.
Exactly.
Which is different.
And they want an adversarial relationship. No, I don't bring anybody on a talk show to embarrass them. That is not my role, right? I will ask you the difficult question, but I'm going to do it politely, right? But people want to see that kind of, remember Had Talk on BBC where the guy would just be kind of insulting? People want to see that.
You know, actually, because I have this good friend, right? And actually he called me a couple of days ago and in the US, and he's like, you know, I admire so a particular lady, I think it's the 10 o'clock hour, 10 to 11 or 10 to 12 hour on CNN, right? And he's really admiring her, not in terms of her looks or anything, but the way how she does her panel. And I guess, and this is what it goes back to what we were saying earlier, Jamie. People expect you to bring what they see internationally on the television to the environment in St. Kitts and Nevis. And you're correct, the adversarial disposition is what people want you to take. And the criticisms are actually coming from, depending on which side of the platform the question is asked and whoever's in office at the time. You will get those criticisms from those people.
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
Oh, morning still, right? Yes, good morning, everyone. I had some things to take, but I'm still not finished, but I decided to still try and make it here. Thanks again for having us, Jermaine. Yeah, so I've come into the midst of this discussion, and I think what Jamie said is, and what you said is on point. It's simple. It's a matter of style, and there's no right or wrong when it comes to journalistic styles. You talk about the BBC Hard Talk. I love that show. By the way, that show has been cancelled.
Yes.
BBC cancelled. I don't know why, but that show has been cancelled. But I don't remember the host name, but he's a pretty good journalist. Stephen Saka, right. He's a pretty good journalist. But then you have somebody like, is it Kristen Keller?
Kristen
Walker from NBC. You saw what happened to her this week. The president walked out of her interview. Kristen is not an aggressive type of person like a Stephen Saka. She asked hard questions, but in a manner that, as Jamie said, in a polite manner or whatever. But the president still got irritated by the question and walked out of the interview.
No, he gets irritated by
about everything. But the point I'm making is, Stephen Saka asks hard questions. She asks hard questions, but they do them in different styles.
But hold on.
The style, there's no right or wrong when it comes to style.
I honestly want to know the definition of this. I haven't checked the Webster dictionary yet. I haven't checked any dictionary. What is a hard question? Because I don't understand.
I will give you the St. Kitts Nevis definition. A hard question is to ask a question to embarrass a public official.
Oh, that's what it is?
To make them accountable, one, but to also at the same time make them look bad. And I'll give you a good example. When the government changed in 2015 and we started to go to the Prime Minister's press conferences, I've had people stop me on the road telling me, why are we asking the Prime Minister these hard questions? Why we never asked the previous administration these questions? We were afraid of the previous administration. That's why we're asking the government hard questions now. But then we also had persons from the other side saying, you're not asking hard questions. Why you don't ask the government hard questions? So which one is it? Now we've seen the tables turn again in 2022. The same thing happened. The supporters of the government saying, we should have asked the previous administration these questions. Why are we asking these hard questions of the government? No. So again, hard question, in my opinion, is very relative. It's not something that has a set definition. For some people, the definition I gave you earlier, that for them is a hard question. For other people, it's just basically asking questions that are logical questions that you would expect the journalist to ask of public officials when it comes to certain issues.
And while that
so it's very relative, really. It depends on who you ask and who is telling you should ask the hard questions.
And while that is the case, right? I can remember me and you, I think we got criticized sometime back with the incident that was...
And honestly, I was completely oblivious to the incident. Had I known, I would have asked the question.
Yeah, and we both got criticized for not
I would have asked the question. I didn't know about it.
Right?
Yeah.
But then again, and this is one of the questions I wanted to ask you, Jamie, and it's a good time to segue into this particular question. If we could peel the veil back in terms of news, let's say, for example, tomorrow's Sunday, right? And I want you guys, both of you, to give the public. I know, Andre, you've worked in large newsrooms. I've had the opportunity, not just locally, regionally, but internationally, to do international newsroom type work. Well, give the public, because I think this might open their mindset to what actually goes on in the newsroom, right? I'll let Jamie start. Let's say Monday is coming. Jamie, you go into the office. You have to prepare for the news. Give them a synopsis of what goes into planning out your newscast, and then I'll show it over to Andre.
So it actually starts even before Monday. So this morning we woke up to the unfortunate news about the passing of the former Deputy Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis. Condolences to his family. And so I'll make a mental note of that. Then something else may happen. I'll make a mental note of that, right? And so throughout the weekend, you're making these mental notes. I usually go in and I jot down what the issues are and what happened in order to get a clear understanding of, what should make the newscast. Then my local news is usually 15 minutes long. So, I have to do some eliminations because everything can't go into the news. No, what I may feel is important and needs to be in a newscast may be completely different to what Andre will feel needs to go in a newscast. I may make the determination that this can happen tomorrow. But Andre may say, this is an important story and it has to happen today.
Yep.
It's all based on your perception. Is Andre wrong? No. Am I wrong? No. It's just based on what we're doing. Then you have to set about writing these stories. And I don't know. I feel like people think that we just get the stories, like somebody just write them for us and we just go and we read them.
It's not AI,
right?
folks.
No.
It's not AI.
You have to write the story. In order to write the story, you have to do some research, right? A story as simple as, somebody was honored for something. You need information about the person. You can't just say, oh, well, Andre was awarded by the Media Association for being on Inside the News. That can't just be the story.
The difference with that, not to cut you, Jamie, you could do one or two things. You could report on it, which is basically outline. You just give the information as you get it. But if you're going to do journalism, it will require you to do the research.
Exactly.
So if you're going to do proper journalism, then you're going to take the time. And that takes time.
Exactly.
It takes the time to do the research.
Now, there may be an issue. The Prime Minister recently spoke about the water situation, right? So you may want to do that. But you still have to understand, where in the country has water shortages, right? So that's another set of
Background
research you have to
information
do.
on that.
Then the minister with responsibility for water, he recently made some comments. How do these comments line
Fit
up?
into it, yeah.
You right? That's two stories.
And then you still have the opposition's perspective of it.
Okay. Then you have to write at least another story. Maybe you have to go and look for clips of these people who spoke. When you have to find exactly what they said that is relevant about the topic that you're trying to do. You have to edit it. You realize you go to work for 9 o'clock. You have 12:30. You realize this can't be done in 15 minutes, right? It cannot be done in 15 minutes.
And not forgetting you have other things to do.
Oh, I forgot that part. Then you have all sorts of other things to do at mornings as well. Then, after doing all of that, you have to read the story. Sometimes while reading the story, you say, but that sounds kind of off. The people may not get the gist. So maybe you need to rewrite, right? You record, you still have to edit. You have to put in the inserts. You have to do, and all of this is one person. I don't know about other radio stations or media houses, but at Freedom, all of this happens, one person, right? Then you have to package it. We ain't even going into packaging it, right? But you have to package it, right? And people don't understand. I usually tell you guys, no, not mornings. No, I don't do the news every day anymore because I have lots of other stuff to do. But I usually say, at mornings, don't call me. Don't message me, don't expect. I can't do it at mornings because it's me alone. And we have that. When it's 12:30, you want to hear from a bird's eye. Simple,
And
right?
starts,
Things may happen, but you want to hear that at 12:30, so you don't want to be late, right? Because in radio, nothing should be late. So that's how the news looks. If something happens at 1 o'clock, you may just have to revisit the newscast, right? If there's a murder or something serious, somebody resigns from government, something, right?
And your entire, depending on the nature of the environment, your entire newscast might be
Okay.
dumped out the door.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because let's say our news is 12:30, but let's say something happens at 12:25. I can't say, well, maybe I'm putting in that because it's 12:25. I now have to find a way to juggle that. We're dealing with equipment. Sometimes computers crash. happens,
At the
right?
worst possible time.
Exactly. So yeah, it's a lot.
And I'll tell
it's
you what,
chaotic.
I'm going to add to Jamie, rather than just speak about my personal experience. So let's use the water story that you raised, for example. What would also add a very interesting take on that story? So you got the minister, you got the prime minister, you probably got the opposition chiming in on to make the story balance. What would make it an even more human interest story now is to probably go out in the communities and talk to people who are
Definitely.
experiencing the water shortages and how that is affecting their livelihoods and their lives. That now brings the story closer to home, and that now makes the story even more relatable, because rather than officials speaking, you're now hearing people in the communities who are willing to speak, of course, speak on the issue. But where does Jamie gonna have the time, with all of what she just outlined, to go to St. Peter's or Keon or wherever and interview people in the community about?
We're gonna get a transportation for.
There you go. So this is what I'm talking about. When I spoke earlier on another station about this issue, when I talk about resources and to have the adequate resources to do your job in the efficient way to serve the public, that's what I'm referring to. That's a practical example. Because now, when you could have been out in the road now, getting the story and making the news even more impactful, you're not able to do that because you're restricted by resources. So that is part of the challenge we feel. Now, again, it's not an excuse, because, we are trying in the Media Association to see how we can assist with that. But it is a reality. It's something that we are faced with. It's something that's not going to be fixed overnight, and it's going to take some time to get it done, to get it right.
You see, there's a reason why I asked that question. Let's take this caller before I make that point. Caller, good morning. Caller?
Yes, good morning again, Adrian. And my good friend Adrian.
Morning, Jam Down. How you doing?
Watch here.
Mm-hmm.
Adrian and Jamie and my good friend Andre Yui. Do not feel like people don't know what's going on out here. We know what's going on out here. We want the journalists, we want the journalist media to reach up to par locally. Could you imagine, in the early years of Clyde Bacchus, me and Andre had something going around Bastille with the nastiness. And it gone totally out of hand. We had Bridgewater used to buy into it when Andre come to me and we go and talk inside. And we hearing it and better. And WINNFM, fussing in the news. All them things gone through the door. This is journalism locally. The journalism, the house media, them, they run it from the public. That's where the politicians, them. I ain't gonna hold all I accountable. I the faceless king elements around here when it comes to Sinkits and Nevis issues. I get up, don't be afraid. I put the message out there and ask the hard questions. People is bumbling. The Public Accounts Committee is a serious thing. And they have to recognize it so serious, and the public is crying out, and we need answers. We need accountability. For instance, Andre, the electoral supervisor, we're coming up on an election, and the Nevis is asking him for a meeting by Zoom if you cannot come. And he won't respond. This thing is serious. I gone. Have a
All
good
right.
morning.
Thank you very much for your call. And he's right. He and I used to go all over Bastille and do stories and interview people together.
Hold on that though.
Yeah.
Which actually was a question I wanted to frame it around that, right? You guys used to go around Bastille.
Yes.
He's willing to speak, right? Jamie might have her sources within the government. Is that even working right now? Because let's be frank, let's be honest. You wouldn't know, I wouldn't know that there's an issue, let's say, for example, in government, unless somebody tip you off about it. And that's literally how news work. We work on tips, right? Because you could see something happen and that's just a story. But now people are literally not even speaking, period.
Yeah.
So how are you going to be able to work
Yeah,
with that?
because when I heard when Andre was speaking about the same water story, I'm like, but that's it's simple when you can get people to speak, right? No, Jamdon spoke about walking around the road, right? And again, I don't think people understand, because if I am working in a newsroom by myself, when I got time to walk around the road to ask people questions,
Yeah.
and when I am walking around the road, who is doing my job,
Yeah.
right? So it is not as, it may seem like it's simple, but it's really not.
Yeah. Yeah. It's two things can be true. What Jam Down is saying is true.
And it is
The media
necessary.
needs to go out more
Yes.
and do more stories with the people, and it's necessary. It's something I've always wanted. Since I went left wing, I've always wanted to do that. We've spoken many times. He see me on the road and he say, "Yeah, man, I want to come," but something always comes up, and I never get the chance to go because I am not only now in the newsroom, I'm running a business as well. So, and that takes a lot of time. But I do have it in mind to still go out on the street and do stories. But again, it's not as easy as you would like because again, you don't have the resources. I will also say this too, that there are creative ways in which we can do it. And I think that's probably what we need to start looking at. How we can creatively, it might mean maybe doing the news package a day before so that you can have some time the next morning to go on the street. Maybe that's something you probably could explore. It might affect the quality of the news overall, but at least you make an effort to say, all right, let me go on the street and see if we can get something. Because journalism not happening in the newsroom alone.
That is true.
You have to go on the
But
road.
the thing
That
is,
is true,
too,
but that's why. Go ahead.
And the best stories you get is on the
the
road.
thing is, too, that is why the Media Association has become so important, became so important, well, especially for me, because for many, many years, I worked alone. Because of the Media Association, I know you guys, right? I didn't know you as well as I do now before the Media Association. I'm able to call Jermaine. Jermaine, you're going to XYZ. Can you ask this question for me? Andre, you're going wherever, because I can't go, right? So not because I'm not there, it doesn't mean that we don't have an input.
Right.
There are times where Jeremy will call me and say, well, Jeremy, you want the audio for XYZ because I did something on that. And he'll send me the audio. So that's one of the creative ways that we can get the job done through collaboration.
Yep.
Because while we are all competing, so to speak, we still recognize that it is important for us to collaborate.
Yeah, and work together. Yeah, there's room for that.
Yeah.
And I think that's it. You see, the reason why I asked about to peel back the veil of what goes on in the newsroom and behind the scenes is because I don't think people completely understand. Like, you're going to sit down in your editorial meetings in the morning.
We don't have
You're going to
editorial
have the
meetings.
most beautiful of newscasts, right? The most beautiful of newscasts. And then everybody's working on a script. And then your newscast at 1 o'clock is almost complete. It's picture perfect. You already run your midday news. Mm-hmm. And then you realize 10 breaking stories comes in. So that then means that everything that you sat down at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning has to be thrown out to come in with what is breaking, because obviously you cannot not go to press without the breaking news.
Story,
Right. I can tell you guys this much. When I do my work for my international organization, we have specific dates. So if I'm going to be doing a story, I will tell them, hey, they're going to give me a date. Oh, we're going to publish on June 15th. So your story has to be packaged and ready for publication on June 15th. But I can tell you this much. June 15th might come and President Trump might say, listen, to hell with this peace deal that Iran wants. That does not mean that the story that I finish will actually be able to make the newscast because there's breaking stories. And the point I'm getting at with this is the fact that we may all think that people need to do more, but when we're doing more, the environment then makes a decision of what has to be produced or what goes out as the final product.
Yep.
Definitely.
And let me also add this as well, because you raised the point about persons not willing to speak, like previously before. Let me go back to even our on the road stories with Jam Down. When I would go out, oftentimes he would introduce me to persons and try to get them to go on the record to talk about a particular issue. Some of them would willingly do it. Others, the moment they see a microphone, they're gone for the hills. They don't want to talk. They will have a lot to say off the record. But when it comes to on the record, they run. And it's not only the average man in the street. It's also some really influential people in society who have a burning issue. They want the media to do it, but no one is willing to go on the record. And it's hard to really do a story of credibility if you don't have people willing to go on the record. People are afraid to go on the record for fear of retribution, whether it be government or otherwise. If you talk, somebody might do something to you because you said something or because you're being vocal about something. And if you're too vocal, they say you're political. So it's a catch-22 situation. It's really important to have people on the record. It's really important to put the freedom of information legislation to the test, to get information, because without information, you can't do a credible, and notice I said credible story. You can have hearsay, or you could write stuff and put it on social media and say, well, this is that and that is that. But it won't be considered credible unless you actually have, because journalism is about evidence. It's about presenting the evidence and having documentation. Because even when you're doing investigative reporting, you need to have documentation to prove that what you're saying is true. That in the event that you are sued or face legal consequences for your stories, you have evidence to prove that what you wrote is indeed accurate. But I'll go back to the point that I was making earlier about using creativity. And this is where the Media Association comes in. Because one of the things that we will be doing is we've already engaged most of the mainstream media houses on both St. Kitts and Nevis to find out, the situation with their newsrooms. And we're in the process of developing training opportunities for those media houses. What we intend and what we hope to do is to find creative and innovative ways in which we can work around our limitations. The limitations are there. They're not going to be solved right away. Most of these limitations are causes of lack of finances. So unless the financing is there, you won't get the resources. So what do we do in the interim? Do we just say, well, we can't do better and we throw our hands up in the air? Or do we find a way to creatively get the job done in a way that benefits the public and while at the same time doesn't put too much strain on the newsroom? So that's what we're going to be looking to do. And hopefully, change will come in the not too distant future.
Okay, we'll take a quick break now, pay some bills, and then we'll come right back and continue with more Inside the News.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Come, build with us at Hostels Building and Nevis Centers. We don't just sell materials, we help you build your dreams. Whether it's a new home, a renovation, or a DIY project, we're here to make it happen. That's why we say, build with us. From foundation to finish, come to our stores where we have the best in building materials, hardware, tools, paints, expert advice, and more. Whatever you need, you can count on us. So if you're ready to get started, build with us. With Hostels Building and Nevis Centers, you're not just building a structure, you're building a future. Let us help you create something amazing. Dream with us, plan with us, grow with us, build with us. Come build with us at Hostels Building and Nevis Centers today. Build with us at Hostels.
More than 42 million cars from 19 different car companies are being recalled for faulty airbag inflators. Repairs are fast, easy, and free. The problem isn't with the airbag, it's with the airbag inflator. Because the inflator can rupture, shooting shrapnel through the airbag, which can cause serious injury or even death. Don't risk it, fix it.
Please contact TDC Automotive Division to find out if your Toyota vehicle is affected by the Takata airbag recall. Visit or call us at 465-2511 in St. Kitts or 469-5430 in Nevis.
we are back here on Inside the News. I am German Abel, sitting in my guest today. I mean, I'll keep them for the remainder of the program because, they're media people. They don't have anything to do on Saturdays. So yes, they don't have anything to do on Saturdays. Unlike me, who come in here and do it, they don't have anything much. I won't tell you what the looks are if you guys can see it through the screen. Through the radio, you'd understand. We're going to the phone lines and hear from this caller. Caller, good morning.
Yes,
Caller, good morning.
Again, Adrian. Andre,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Yuri,
Yes, sir. Yes.
you remember a few years ago, we had a problem over in Greenland.
Yes.
When me and you went over there to
Yes.
correct the problem for the old people them who walking over Greenland.
I remember.
To church.
I remember that.
You remember?
Yes.
When you used to be at WINNFM, we went over the back way to go over Greenland.
Yes.
We had some boards
The footbridge.
over God.
Yes.
Marcelo, correct that. Well, how is it? A younger woman and Marcelo can't go down by the bus terminal and the ferry terminal and correct what's going on down there. He did nastiness and yeah.
That has to do.
I'm calling on you to come and look for job now.
Okay. All right.
Lose that epe.
I'll go look for you.
Come down there with you and show you the condition. And when we visit them got to face.
Okay.
Especially.
Okay. I will come with you. I will come with you. I'll make that commitment.
Okay, caller, thanks.
But I asked.
Okay.
I
Go ahead,
asked
Jimmy.
The minister about that recently. I asked the minister about that, Minister Henderson, about that issue recently. While she was at Freedom, I think she was there on
That has to do with the
Wednesday,
bathroom
right?
facilities.
Yes, but she said to me that area is no longer falls under her ministry; it falls under public transport. So, yeah. So it's not really MASH.
Well,
it falls under public transport.
So that would be.
So the question was asked.
So that would be Congress's ministry,
Yes.
Congress Maynard. Well, he has a
Yes,
press
so-
conference this Tuesday coming up,
Yes.
so we could use that opportunity to ask him as well.
Okay, I want to ask investigations. I mean, the caller has, callers to all programs, and one of the criticisms the media has been receiving, and while it is fair, and I give Jack his jacket and Jane her skirt, but when it's tight and stuff like that, you tell them, it realistically, the media has not done a lot. And I'm not saying the media doesn't do it. We have not done a lot
Correct.
of investigative work. Right. So get from you guys were on the mainstream aspect of it, on the mainstream side of media. Let's talk investigation. Let's talk investigative work.
Mainstream anymore?
Huh?
You're not on mainstream anymore.
Germany is a
I'm
mainstream.
old, I'm
lady. Yeah, so, well, to answer your question, and again, I was speaking with Jamie earlier this week on this issue about investigations. Yes, I agree. I concur that the media needs to do more, the local media here needs to do more investigative journalism. But investigative journalism takes time and it costs money to do it properly. You know German because you've done a few investigative pieces. In fact, you and I are working on a project which involves regional stories that are investigative in nature, right? How long have you been working on yours?
Over 6 months.
Okay, good. Same here. I did one a few years ago. I spoke to Jamie about it, the one on the CBI investigation with a few journalists one was from here, myself, two from here and two were from Barbados and Dominica. And we did an investigative piece together. That took maybe roughly 4 months to do. Proper investigative piece takes time and it costs money because it's not cheap. You have to spend money to get certain information, to get certain things done. Again, I'm going to go back to the point I made earlier. If we are going to go down the road of investigative journalism, if we're not going to invest the time and the money to do it the proper way, then we will have to find creative means to do it. You're not going to get the best work if you do it that way. But to appease the public, that was probably where we'll have to go, because unless there are fundamental changes, I don't see where the investment is going to come from to really get things done. And that's why we have entities like the Caribbean Investigative Journalism Network, which is a non-profit organization, which gets its money not from advertising, but they get it from funding from international organizations to do certain investigations. We can go to them and say, as a conglomerate, as a journalist, and a group of journalists, and say, we would like to do an investigative piece on this, and submit a project, and hopefully get funding for it so that we can do it. That's probably the only way I see us getting anywhere when it comes to investigative journalism in St. Kitts and Nevis. Because the requisite investments that need to be made in the newsrooms are not being made. Not because I don't think the managers or owners are unwilling to do so. It's just that the resources are limited. So we will then now, as an association, may have to look at saying, okay, well, if there is a story or stories that we need to pursue as an association, we can submit a request for funding to get the money to do it. I don't think people understand it now. It costs money to do journalism. It's a business like any other business. And if you don't have the money to do it properly, it's not going to be done properly. Simple as that. There's no if, ands, or but. You talk about your story taking 6 months, mine taking just as long. And I told Jamie this earlier this week. I was at a training some years ago in Trinidad, and one of the facilitators, it was an investigative journalism training. One of the facilitators is a British journalist who works for I think it's the International Consortium of Investigative Journalism. I think that's what it's called. He's a full-time investigative journalist. And what he does is he works on 2 stories per year. Not 2 per week or 2 per month. 2 investigative stories per year. So he has 2 years to do 2 stories. 1 year to do 2 stories. You and I don't have that luxury in the newsroom. We have a newscast to put out. We have, in your case, you have to publish stories online on a regular interval. You don't have the luxury of 2 years to do, or 1 year to do 1 story or 2 stories. Impossible. But you know that he's going to cover all his bases because he has a whole year. He has 6 months maybe to do one, another 6 months to do the other. And he can cover all his bases. If he needs to travel to go somewhere, he can travel. He has the budget to go and travel. That's how it works. For it to be done.
Don't even have the budget to catch a bus from here to there.
You understand what I'm saying? so that's why I'm saying it's not. You've already got Nevis. It's not enough. We're not doing enough when it comes to that. We're not doing enough, not because we're not competent or not because we don't, or because we're lazy. We're not doing enough because we don't have the resources to do it. So this is where now the association steps in and say, well, okay, let's see if we can come up with a creative way to do more investigative journalism. It's also going to take collaboration. It's going to take the media houses, the newsrooms to say, let's collaborate on a particular story.
Definitely.
We can lay the competition aside momentarily in the interest of journalism and good journalism. And we'll, as an association now, say, let's lobby on behalf of the media houses here to get funding to do in proper investigative stories.
I like how you put that, you guys are putting it, because I think the public now has a better understanding. Even though they will criticize you regardless.
That's fine. It comes with the territory. It comes with the territory.
And, everybody has an opinion, right? And are their opinions valid? Yes, absolutely. But we also work within the field, so we know what it takes, right? So, and all we can do is try to sensitize the general public as to what it takes.
Exactly. I mean, it's like you going to a doctor and say, hey, doc, my leg is hurting. And the doctor said, well, I'm going to put it in cast. But I said, but doctor, the cast isn't going to help the pain. But the doctor might tell you, listen, you break something and, you might need to put. But doctor,
he's the treat person.
This is not how you should be treating me.
Yeah.
And I think that's how people treat us. That, their opinion is fact. And the fact that their opinion is fact means that whatever we're doing is incorrect. And we take their criticism.
And that's absolutely, that's okay.
It comes with the territory. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but as Jamie said, who need kitchen feel the heat, so.
Well, that's why I stopped cooking. So, yeah.
But to your point though on that, and again, like I said, the criticisms are fine because it comes with the territory. It's part of what you do.
It makes it better.
It makes it better. You take the good with it. You take the what good you can get out of it.
One thing I want to ask you guys, right, which is from investigation into AI, which is the new phenomenon taking over the world right now. Some people are even saying, it's actually going to put us journalists, media practitioners out of business. I don't know how, but probably. How do you guys find AI in the realm of the media landscape that we're in right now?
Jamie, I'll let you go first.
I think I touched on this a little earlier. No, for me, I like to embrace everything new, because many times people see things and they just see the negatives. And then you often hear the comments, it's going to take our jobs. How about we look at it as it's going to make our lives easier, right? Something as simple as writing a transcript. I don't write transcripts anymore. I remember when I first started listening to entire clips and having to write out word for word what the person said. No, there is a program for that, right? No, having said that, everything has to be used responsibly. And I think that's one of the issues that we are seeing, not just in terms of media, but ethical use of AI, right? The Pope wrote an entire paper on AI the other day saying that AI needs to be disarmed. I don't think that he was saying that we need to do away with it, but we have to be very careful with the way it is used. No, I remember when, social media bloggers started, to become popular. There were times we looked at articles, and because of how they were written, you knew, well, this can't be a legitimate person because the grammar off, the expression poor, and that kind of thing. Now AI is being utilized to write a lot of these stories, so it makes it more difficult for the general public to be able to decipher, well, is this fact or is this fiction? And again, that is where we come in, because we are committed to providing some education to the general public as to how do you decipher, what do you look for, what are some tips that can be used to ensure that when you are quoting or you're sharing verified information, right? So I think that is necessary, the training for even media practitioners, because sometimes I see some things and I'm like, but that is not true, right? And they are on, because many times legitimate media houses, they would share stuff, they would share articles on social media, and I'm like, but that is clearly not true, right? But I'm saying that to myself, but it's not actually clear in the minds of many, right? So we are committed to doing that work and providing that education.
Yeah. Well, in the foreseeable future, I don't see AI necessarily replacing journalists per se, because for the same reasons Jamie outlined. For one, yes, you can get AI to write you a news story, and it sounds like a legitimate news story. The question is it factual? I'll give you a practical example. I was writing a story. I did a story once, and I said, I'm going to put it in ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to rewrite the story. ChatGPT rewrote the story and added quotes attributed to, in this case, it was the Prime Minister, attributed to the Prime Minister, when he said no such thing. Now, an irresponsible journalist or irresponsible person pretending to be a journalist or reporter would probably publish that and put it as a legitimate news item, when clearly the person who was quoted said no such thing. As the responsible journalist, I would now have to go rewrite that article or remove the parts that are not applicable to the story, because, ChatGPT was putting words in the man's mouth that he didn't say. So it's, again, to the point you make, responsible use of AI. AI is a good tool if it's used responsibly. Because, again, you see the same blogs that you're talking about, they're now using AI to create stories. And oftentimes the stories are not accurate, or they are done in a way to give a different, impression or take on the story. So you have to use AI responsibly. AI can be used to enhance your work. So you could write something and you want it to be maybe sharpened up a little better or sound a little better. You could put it in AI. And then, of course, you still have to go back and check it to ensure that the original idea that you wrote is not changed. right? Or a different impression is given. So that's one way in which you can use it responsibly. To the point you made about transcripts, brilliant.
Absolutely.
It saves you so much time because when you have to listen to a recording and because you have to have the word for word and verbatim, you have to make sure you have it right. No, you don't have to do it. You could have hundreds of transcripts easily transcribed and ready for you by the click of a button. That is one of the beautiful things about AI. It saves you a lot of time. It cuts back a lot of time. I think what really needs to happen, and this is where, again, I think the association comes in, is ensuring that our members and journalists and media persons are trained on the proper use of AI. I was just part of a workshop, a regional workshop. The Media Institute of the Caribbean had its media summit, the annual media summit, and AI was the subject, was the topic. And there was a lot of discussion about how AI has affected the business model of media companies worldwide and in the region. But there are also tools, AI tools, that can be used to fact check, to also enhance the work you do and to make things a lot easier and save you time. And especially as we're talking about resources and all of that, if you can use AI responsibly, that can save you a lot of time and make you more efficient in how you do your work.
But as you guys talk about this, right, we have a mature society in St. Kitts and Nevis, and let's be frank, mature, because most of the people, there's a younger generation that loves social media and so forth, but there is also a mature society. A large percentage of the population in St. Kitts and Nevis is mature, and some are not technologically inclined. What would you tell that particular crop, and also to an extent the younger generation, about AI and figuring out what is AI and what is fact? Because as you rightly said, a lot of people do use news stories, can alter voices, can do everything, right? But the mature section, and I don't like to say old, the mature section of society may not necessarily have this knowledge that we have, because we continuously train, we continuously do research to figure out what is right from what is wrong.
Well, this is where I would say, the ball is in our court as media people. Because despite all of the changes in modern technology and media and new media and social media, the mature audience you're talking about, they will still come back to the official sources to check and to verify the information. So they're on social media, they're on Facebook and Instagram, they're on TikTok, they're seeing the things coming up. And when they see them, most of the times what they often do is, let me see if WINNFM has this. Let me see if SK Vibes has this. And they will check the official, the mainstream media sources to see if we have that information that they have. Or they might even call. I know there were times when I was working here at WIN, people used to call the newsroom to ask if such and such is true. That shows that traditional media is still seen as the vanguard of truth and accurate reporting in St. Kitts and Nevis. So even though they're getting their stuff from blogs and all of that, they're still going to turn to the official sources. So the ball is in our court. We will now have to be more engaging on social media and also be more vigilant in our reporting so that we'll ensure that people can still trust us as the source of accurate information. As for the younger generation, they're more into the social media and more into the new media. They get their news from those sources. So then again, that's where again we come into play. They may not come to your website or listen to radio to get the news. But if you have an Instagram page and you have a Facebook page that constantly and regularly updates the news, they will somehow come across our feed if we do it right and do it correctly. So this is where now we need to become a lot more savvier on social media so that one second.
Let's take this call.
Okay.
Caller, good morning. Okay, we lost that call. Continue.
Yeah, so we have to be savvier on social media so that we can cater also to that younger generation that gets their news from social media. And even some of the more mature persons who would also be on social media, they'll get their news there. We have to go where the people are. And right now, the people are on social media. You're not going to abandon one for the other. You're not going to abandon the traditional outlet for the new media. And you're not going to abandon the new media for the traditional. You have to now be diverse on both platforms.
But how do you balance that? Because somebody told me the other day, and then I did my research and I found it, that, and this was to an extent pertaining to the U.S. A survey was done, right, and it shocked me, but I wasn't surprised. But I don't know if that makes sense. The survey basically was, where do you, and this is from young people, where do you get your news, right? And the survey basically outlined that most people get their news from social media like TikTok, right? And as somebody who's been in this field a long time, I'm like, what craziness am I seeing? No, I mean, it may sound...
But it's true.
But it's true.
It's true.
And that is why it's important. What Andre said is important about embracing social media. We can't look at social media as an adversary, but we have to be there too. Right? Because when I go onto social media, I see the BBC, I see NBC, I see the Canadian CBC, the Canadian channels. You see Al Jazeera, everybody's on TikTok, right? And I usually say to people, TikTok will give you what you want to see. What you like, I don't know, but they give you how the algorithm is set, they give you what you like to see. So we have to be there as well.
Caller, good morning.
Good morning again.
Good morning.
And welcome, Andre.
Yes, good morning. Thank you.
You mentioned a few minutes ago about the president of the U.S. walking out of an interview. And a young lady, I feel strongly, very strongly, that at any interview, especially a press conference or something like that, and any one journalist is embarrassed by whatever comments or questions, I am of the view that all journalists should walk out of that, whatever it is, and two, when there's another, not go back. Because we need to ensure that people, especially people in authority, respect the media, not use the media and journalists at their whims and fancies when they want to get out certain stories. No. The media is there to, as Jam Down said earlier, for accountability. The media is the man on the road's voice. And the woman on the road who don't have that voice, they don't have the strength to ask a question. So they rely on you, Andre, they rely on you, Daniela, they rely on you, Abel, to ask the question that I have on my mind that I want to ask, that I can't ask, that I am afraid to ask. That you're there to do that job for me, even though we ain't going to say thank you. But that is what expected. And that's how strongly I feel about it. And in terms of AI, I do sports for WINNFM 98.9. And when I'm doing my research, I'm afraid to check social media, because I don't really know what is true from what ain't true. And if you just grab the first story you see or hear, you could be in problems. And like you said, Andre, one of you said, I have to go and check 2-3 sources to find out if this thing is really true. If it is something about, say, a West Indian cricketer, you go to the West Indies website. But if it's something about something else, you have to check 3-4 sources to find out if it's true. Even here in St. Kitts.
Yeah.
To give you an idea, I was speaking to somebody as soon as I hung up. I got a call asking me if it is true this particular person passed. And the person close, I nearly tear up myself according to some people. But then I said, well, I know me ain't hear nothing, me ain't see nothing. I made a couple calls only to find out. I eventually called in the person is alive and well, and the person got in a conversation like, oh, yes. But not only that, the person asked me, Biff, wow, you called me to ask me if I'm dead? I could ask, no. When he asked me the question, I couldn't ask. Because I went in, it's still shaking. We just can't take anything.
Yes, that's true.
As people say, we have to do our own research. And one final thing, this AI thing you mentioned, a song. Sometime last year, I heard a song. I was in a chat, a conversation, and this person played a song. They say, Andre, you had a song, Hail to the Almighty. They took out your voice, used AI to take out your voice and put in a voice. Normally it's the AI voice. The exact song, exact key, exact phrasing, exact everything. And that is when I got scared of AI. AI could do everything. There was a still picture, and this is fact I know of. A gentleman from Sandy Point, Crab Hill, created a video about Crab Hill. And there's a picture when I was teaching at Sandy Point High School. We played a cricket match in the Sandy Point League. And there was this gentleman holding up a ball. This is like 1980 or 81, you know? No, 82, 83, 81, 82, 83. And in the movie, you see the man start to shake the ball from left to right. And it was a still picture.
Yeah.
But it was incorporated in the movie. That's AI.
AI can do that, yes.
Bye, deadly.
Scary.
Well, folks, thank you for the excellent job.
Yes.
As usual.
All right. Thank you for your contribution. He said a number of things here which I concur. About the journalists banding together, it's something I've always advocated for. Fortunately, we don't have too many incidents in St. Kitts and Nevis that immediately requires that, but there were incidents in the past where I think the journalists probably should have walked out of those press conferences. At the time, the Media Association wasn't active, so it's harder to do when you don't have unity, when you don't have an association to coalesce around. So in those days, when I think a journalist was insulted for simply asking a question, the rest of the journalists probably should have gotten up and walked out. But again, there was no coalescing at the time, so that didn't happen. But I do agree with that there are times when you do have to take those stances.
Because there was a situation in the White House press room recently where the president really went after a female journalist saying she's a horrible person and she wouldn't even smile. And everybody just sat there. And even if they did not walk out,
somebody should have said
something. I think
someone
should have said something.
Yeah, there have been incidents in the past where things have happened, and at those times I felt people should have banded together and walked out. But like I said, again, the association then wasn't active. Hopefully, we shouldn't have those situations. But when they do arise, I do think there should be some unified stance. And as it relates to AI, yes, AI is scary. When you consider some of the things that it can do. That thing that Biff spoke about, where you can animate a picture and allow, I've seen it happen. I've seen people do that with AI.
I've seen them do it with dead people.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I think, again, it comes back to what you said, Jamie, responsible use of AI. A few months ago, like maybe around January, thereabouts, around the time of Dr. Martin Luther King Day in the U.S., the family, Dr. King's family asked the OpenAI, which is the parent company of ChatGPT, they had a software called Sora, where you can you can create videos from it. So you could tell it, you want a video of Jamie dancing the lambada or something like that, and it creates this realistic image of Jamie dancing. They were doing a lot of that with Dr. King's image. So they were using him, and if you go on YouTube, you'll see some of them. It was very embarrassing. They would have Dr. King saying some ludicrous things. Voice sounds just like him, image looks just like him, and using his I Have a Dream speech, and doing, in my opinion, just pure nonsense with it. And it got to the point where the family said, we would like people to respect the legacy of Dr. King and do not use his image or likeness in anything on AI. And eventually, OpenAI had to ban people from using Dr. King's image and voice to do anything, because they were just doing some really ridiculous things with it that sullied his legacy as a civil rights leader. I think eventually they had shut down that software or something to that effect, but they have stopped offering the service. But before they did that, they did ban anybody from using his image and voice. So again, it's about responsible use of AI. You have it, it's a beautiful tool. Don't do stupidness with it. Use it to do something constructive and valuable.
You're preaching to the choir, sir. With that, you're preaching to the choir. But we have to take a break right now, pay some bills for the final segment, and then we will come right back with more Inside the News here on WINNFM.
Come, build Build with us at Hostels Building and Nevis Centers. We don't just sell materials, we help you build your dreams. Whether it's a new home, a renovation, or a DIY project, we're here to make it happen. That's why we say, build with us. From foundation to finish, come to our stores where we have the best in building materials, hardware, tools, paints, expert advice, and more. Whatever you need, you can count on us. So if you're ready to get started, build with us. With Hostels Building and Nevis Centers, you're not just building a structure, you're building a future. Let us help you create something amazing. Dream with us, plan with us, grow with us, build with us. Come build with us at Hostels Building and Nevis Centers today. Build with us at Hostels.
You know Dad is always fixing, building, and getting the job done. This Father's Day, reward him with something you really use at TDC Home and Building Depot.
Enjoy 25% off tools and selected Father's Day categories from June 1st to 21st.
From power tools to lawn equipment and workshop essentials, we've got gifts built for Dad. Visit TDC Home and Building Depot today, celebrating the builders at home.
And we are back, folks. We're just about 10, 12 minutes before we wrap the program. Yes, we're discussing media and the media realm with members of the Media Association of St. Kitts and Nevis. We have with us Jamiela McPhail. She's a communications director. And we have the president, Andre Huey. And we've been talking about the media landscape here in St. Kitts and Nevis, the challenges, and we've been taking your calls. But with just about 10 to 12 minutes to go here on the program, we're going to circle back to the association in a bit. But I want to get from you guys quickly, what do you want the public to understand about media here in St. Kitts and Nevis, and what really are some of the issues the media is really facing? Because I know, again, like I said earlier, and it may sound a little bit cliche and repetitive, but we will get criticized regardless of whatever it is we tell them. But to give them a clear picture of what really is the landscape of media houses in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Mm. Well, I'm going to look at it from a two perspectives, positive and negative. Maybe I should start with the positive first. The media landscape in St. Kitts and Nevis is still pretty young when you compare it to other countries in the region. The oldest newspaper in the region is over 200 years old, Daily Gleaner, right? We don't have a newspaper that is more than 2 decades old in St. Kitts and Nevis, or do we? Maybe the Labour spokesman, probably? Probably, yeah. Okay, so I stand corrected. But the bottom line is we have nothing close to 200 years in media here. The oldest media houses here is ZBC Broadcasting, which is over 60 years old. So we're still pretty young along the media landscape. We still have a lot to learn. But that also presents a lot of opportunities, because now we're at a very crucial and innovative time in history. We shouldn't look at social media, new media as threats. Yes, they have affected the business model that we've used for years, but we should also see it as opportunity. So whenever there is something that comes and disrupts an industry, we should look at it as an opportunity that we can also capitalize on. So I think new media, digital media, can be capitalized on. I'm encouraged that most of the media houses in St. Kitts and Nevis are gradually adopting the new technologies. There was a time maybe like 10, 20 years ago, or maybe 15 years ago, where some radio stations, for example, took time to put a webcam in their studio. They didn't want to go down the line of video streaming. When there were stations like WINNFM that was already ahead of the game and started to do that, and then other radio stations picked it up. I'm glad to see now that almost every radio station in St. Kitts and Nevis is now streaming their shows live. While they're broadcasting on radio, they're also streaming live. So they're making themselves available now to persons who don't necessarily listen to radio, but they will find you on YouTube and they'll watch you, or Facebook. So that's a good thing. So we're seeing them adopting the technologies that are available. Also, what I think is a good thing is that we are beginning to see that despite the rise of new media, traditional media is still well respected in St. Kitts and Nevis. There's still people who listen to radio. There's still people who watch TV. And even though we only have two, the Labour spokesman is only online now, I believe, right? Mm-hmm. Right, they're only online now. So it's only the Observer that's printed. People are going online and they're reading, and they're also, from time to time, you'll see people with the newspaper as well. So traditional media still has a sway in St. Kitts and Nevis. Where I think we need to go now is that we need to, like I said earlier, be more aggressive in our use of social media so that we can remain relevant to those persons who don't listen to radio and don't engage in traditional media, but you still have a presence on social media, a strong presence at that, so that you can also reach that audience and also be convenient. Because again, with all the tools that are available to you for you to utilize in the media, if you don't have a website, you're not into nothing. If you don't have a active social media page, you're probably being left behind. You could even go further and say, well, you need a mobile app so that people can download your app and listen to you or view you on your phones, because people are mostly on their phones now than maybe listening to a radio or watching TV. Your phone is now your TV and your radio in most cases. So we have to meet the people where they are. And so definitely I'm excited about the future and where we're going. And as an association, we are hoping to play a role in helping our members and media houses in St. Kitts and Nevis remain more relevant to persons across the globe, across the country.
You wanted to chime in?
No, I completely agree with what Andre is saying. It's about embracing the new technology and ensuring that we're not left behind. We can't look at this new technology as a threat. I remember when the internet came around, because, I was around. And people saw it as a threat as well. And people, it was seen as something that was bad, and everybody is on internet now. If your internet goes down, you feel like you're dying.
Mm-hmm.
I also
it's
remember...
a public utility now.
Exactly.
It's necessary. Yeah.
I also remember when cell phones became a thing, right? And I remember people saying, my mother, for one, saying, I don't want nobody tracking me. The house phone is enough and whatever. And now, if she forgets her phone home, she coming back home fight because it's important. You have your banking information, you have your calendar, you have your schedule, everything is on your phone, right? So I view AI and all of the new technology in the same way. It is necessary for us to embrace it and not fight it. It doesn't make any sense for us to fight it, otherwise we'll be left behind. There's a conversation about, as Andre, you mentioned, traditional media is alive and well, because there's a conversation about radio. We are on radio, and I sometimes wonder how long radio will be able to
radio
thrive.
is durable. It's very durable.
Because, you often feel like, there are young people who say, oh, but I don't listen to radio. But when you're walking through Bastille, you hear the radio in every vehicle. We listen to radio. So traditional media is not going anywhere. No. We just have to embrace and be able to pivot and be able to embrace everything else that is new.
Yep.
As you guys said that, right, I'm thinking, radio isn't going anywhere anytime soon.
No, it's amazing, especially in St. Kitts and Nevis.
And even to an extent in some of the developed world, especially in the U.S., because sometimes I might be in a car moving around and you're hearing radio, you're hearing the DJs. I'm like,
radio is very durable.
As much as we think that radio is dead and buried, it's not going anywhere.
It's not going anywhere.
And people see the value. People see value in it because, the show with Charlemagne.
Yes.
What's the name
The
of
Breakfast
that show?
Show.
The Breakfast
It's one of the
Show.
most popular shows.
You know, it's on Netflix
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
right?
You can watch it on
so
Netflix.
Netflix, which is a streaming company, you
Yeah.
would think they're above radio. They have seen the value in radio, and they now have it on, and
Yep.
it's updated every day.
Listen, radio and television have evolved with technology so much so it's very impressive. Radio especially, because there's so many things that came after radio that when they came, people thought radio was going to die. When TV came long after radio. Radio was around before television, and people thought, okay, that's the end of radio. It didn't. The internet came in. People thought, okay, this is definitely the end of radio. No, radio evolved. You now have online radio, and you have TuneIn, and you have it's now evolved to satellite radio over the last few years. So satellite radio is a huge thing in the U.S. Stephen A. Smith from ESPN, he has his own satellite radio show, or the Stephen A. Smith Show. I realize when I'm in the U.S., people listen to satellite radio more than they listen to Spotify. They're always on Sirius XM or something, listening to some station, driving in their cars on these long journeys. So satellite radio has made radio even more durable than ever. So radio is not going anywhere anytime soon, even with the rise of AI. And I was also thinking about this morning too, that even TV, because people talk about linear television as if, with Netflix and these things, that quite far from it. Yes, you do have a lot of people who are in the US, for example, who are cutting cable, meaning they're ending their cable subscriptions. But it's not just that they're turning to the streaming platforms like Netflix and others. They're now turning to YouTube. YouTube has introduced for the past few years their own pay live TV service. So you can subscribe to YouTube TV as your live cable TV service in the US.
Streaming platforms have literally
And all of this exactly. So people they're not that they're moving away from linear TV. They're moving to a different form of linear TV, which is now more accessible, which is YouTube TV. And you have other services too there.
As you guys mentioned that, right? We started to talk about TV and this development and transition. I don't know if you guys could remember. Yes, I kind of aging myself here. I'm a millennial, by the way. I was born in 2024, so I'll say that. But I don't know if you guys could remember when TV, literally, we were walking with a TV in our hands when there was a smartphone that was literally a television that could literally pick up signals anywhere.
With you have that antenna as well too, right?
I think it had the antenna. I
Yeah.
don't know. This was so long ago. Right? But I was born.
And then some people
yesterday,
had back in the days used to have the radio with the TV on it. So you had the radio, and then right next to it was the TV attached in one device. So that was a thing at one point.
So it's really not going anywhere. To be honest, it's just that it's transitioning to being more comfortable for us. Because let's be frank, you don't want to know that Andre, you're watching basketball, you missed the game. There you have to be in front of your TV, but no, what
you could also watch it on your phone.
You can literally pull it up on your phone.
And as you talk about even basketball, the NBA games, for example, they're now on because of the new rights deal that came into effect this year. This season, there were a lot of other platforms that are broadcasting the game. So you could watch the game on Amazon Prime, you could watch the game on the NBA app, you could watch the game on TV, on cable, you could watch so many different platforms, the same game on different platforms. So it's more accessible now to you, to answer your point.
But not just more accessible, because it's monetized as well. So these people are seeing the value in all of these streaming platforms, and they are able to capitalize on the dollar.
I want to ask you a question on that, right? We're kind of out of time, right? But I'll give you guys time to wrap up. I want to ask you a question on that. Do you guys believe that we in St. Kitts and Nevis honestly understand when media, and we talk with mainstream media in St. Kitts and Nevis, comes out and launches a new product, say, hey, pay $1 and you get a newsletter, for example, right? We would literally complain to pay that $1,
Yes.
right? And going to your point, the developed nations, the developed media outlets are now transitioning to the point of you having to pay for subscription for certain products. But we here in St. Kitts and Nevis would prefer to pay, I don't know, because I stopped streaming, or I find it more convenient.
And
on the
20
stream.
US.
That we would pay what, $10, $12, $14 for Netflix per month, as against willing to pay a media house that says, hey, you can get content to your phone for $2. Are we is how do we get the people
It comes
the
down
public
to what Jamdon was saying, respect. They don't see value in what we do, right? So they feel that what we do should
They
be
see the
given.
value, they don't respect the value or understand the value.
Yeah. So they feel like it should be given to them for free.
Yeah. And maybe it's just maybe our culture. We're just accustomed to getting certain things free, so we feel like, well, everything else should be free. But there's a cost to everything.
From you on that one.
There's a cost to
I'll
everything.
give you guys time to
Well, Jermaine, thanks again
to
for the
close thing
time.
on the association, the work that you guys have been
Thanks for the time, and even to piggyback on your last question, I do believe that can change. It doesn't have to remain the same. And again, this is where I think the work of the association will help to probably change that view and to show people the value of the media. I think people in St. Kitts and Nevis understand the value of the media. If any of our radio stations go off the air at any point in time, you will hear the complaints, you will hear the concerns. People do understand the value. But again, it's just a matter of how do we take or monetize some of the things that we have to make our business more viable and more practical. But we're hoping that with the association, we can get that going and that we will be able to slowly but surely get to the point where our businesses are more viable and journalism is more active and vibrant in St. Kitts and Nevis. So you'll be hearing more from the association in the not too distant future.
Any word from you, please?
Yes, thank you for being here. It's always a pleasure to, come to the public and speak about not just the media association, but the media business and how we operate. It's important to give people an understanding of what we do and how we do it. So thanks for the opportunity, and we look forward to similar opportunities in the future.
Well, definitely, you guys will be back for us to discuss what's happening in the realm of the media. I know we could have gone in all these different directions, talk about what's happening internationally, what's happening regionally, but we kept it a little bit local for now. We talk a bit about the challenges that we're facing here in St. Kitts and Nevis. I mean, yes, we can do more as media workers, we can do more, but the bottom line is, and the books to an extent, as well as the media managers will tell you, we're struggling in St. Kitts and Nevis when it comes to media. And we didn't even touch on the business community, because the business community also has an important role to play when it comes to keeping media viable. The government in and of itself also has a role to play in terms of disbursing revenues for work that they want, advertising, stuff like that. So I think it's critical that you guys came to the public to explain and pull the veil back so people can understand what goes on in the newsrooms, right? Even though sometimes you might hear a press release or something, realistically what goes on when you plan out your day, the news cycle changes. I can tell that much, right?
There's never a set day.
Journalists have a life too.
Yeah.
So even though we're expected to work around the clock, these guys in this room can tell you,
Oh yeah, we have things to do, even now.
It's very, very difficult. Especially
even
when you
now.
travel, like Andre does, and wink, wink. Jamie as well, wink. No comments. But yes. Some people live out to their suitcases.
Yeah. Like some people are talking to us right now.
I know.
But we have to wrap for the headline news. We're out of time, but it's good to be in your company today. Chesley Hamilton will be with you next week for his edition of Inside the News. I'll be back the week thereafter. But until next time, do enjoy the rest of your day. And I was your host, Jermaine Abel, sitting in today.